he's so disgusting. I'm so ashamed of him.
Why? How? I don't even understand how you could, bring yourself to do that to somebody who's, that big.
No. It wasn't malicious at all. I just deleted everything because he lied to me. That was a woman sitting in a police interview room 3 days after one of the most talked about cases in America had just broken wide open. She was not the one in handcuffs. She was supposed to be a witness. But something about that voice, something about the way she kept saying no 5 times in a row before she could explain herself. Something about the look in her eyes when the questions got close to certain topics. People noticed. And 7 years later, people are still talking. My name is Saifuddin, and today we are going to sit down together and go through this entire case from a completely different angle. Not the angle you have seen on Netflix, not the version the headlines gave you. We are going to look at what the phone records actually showed. We are going to talk about a man named Jim, a man with a key to her apartment, a red truck, and a connection to this case that was never officially followed up. We are going to go through the search history on her phone, minute by minute, and ask the question nobody in law enforcement has ever been asked to answer on record.
Many people ask why the Chris Watts story remains in the news, why people wants the case to be reopened. And I always tell them, his actions deeply hurt his family and touched the hearts of parents and families everywhere, leaving so much sadness that we all feel. As humans, we want to understand the pain and loss caused by this tragedy. To keep exploring this case with care and find answers about Chris Watts' life and whoever is involved in this, please subscribe to this channel, even though it's harder getting these informations. But your support helps me dig and share more details respectfully.
Who was she, really? Before we get into the evidence, you need to understand who Nichol Kessinger is. Because the media gave you a very simple version of her. The girlfriend who had no idea, who was heartbroken, who helped crack the case by going to the police. That version is not wrong, exactly. But it is not the whole picture. Nichol Kessinger grew up in Colorado. She went to Colorado State University and graduated with a degree in geology. Not a soft subject. Geology is a science degree. It requires precision. It requires the ability to look at data and read patterns. She later worked at some of the biggest oil and gas companies in the country, including Halliburton. By 2018, she was working as an engineer at a company called Anadarko Petroleum.
This matters because I want you to understand the kind of person we are talking about. She was educated, she was sharp, she was used to working with information. That is important later. In the spring of 2018, a man named Chris Watts also worked at Anadarko. He was an operator on the field side, the kind of job where you drive out to check oil wells and equipment. One day, he came into the office with a broken gas meter that needed to be looked at. He brought it to Nichol's desk. That, according to the official story, is how they met. They ran into each other a few more times. They started talking, then texting. By the time summer came, they were seeing each other regularly. Camping trips, museum visits, going to car shows. And this was not a secret thing, exactly. They spent many nights together. According to the records, Chris Watts stayed at her apartment almost every night for the entire month of July 2018, while his wife and children were away visiting family in North Carolina.
His wife, his pregnant wife, Shanann Watts, and his 2 little girls, Bella, who was 4 years old, and Celeste, who was 3. Now here is where we need to stop for a second, because this is the part where the 2 versions of the story start to pull in different directions. Nichol Kessinger told investigators she did not know he was married. She said she thought his marriage was basically already over. She said she was blindsided by all of it. Chris Watts, in his later jailhouse confession, And I want to be clear, Chris Watts is a convicted man, and his words carry the weight of someone who lied repeatedly. But even Chris Watts said this. She knew he was married. She saw Shanann's photo on his phone lock screen. She knew about the kids. He said she was, in his words, trying to save face and control the story.
So right there, before we have even gotten to August, we already have a contradiction. A direct, documented contradiction between what she told police and what he said in his confession. One of them is lying. That question was never officially resolved. But here is the thing that grabbed me when I first went through these documents, and I need you to really hear this. Nichol Kessinger's phone records, which were pulled by investigators and are part of the public case file, show that she searched for Shanann Watts' name online in July 2017, September 2017, and January 2018. Let that land for a second.
July 2017, September 2017, January 2018. She did not start working at Anadarko until spring of 2018. She claims she met Chris Watts for the first time in June 2018. So why was she searching for his wife's name 6 months before she says they ever met? That is not a small question. That is a foundational question. And in 1,960 pages of official discovery documents, it was never answered. Not once. We are going to come back to that. But first, I need to take you to a Sunday night. It is Sunday evening, August 12th, 2018. Shanann Watts is in Arizona for a work trip. She works with a health and wellness company, and she has been at a conference. She is 15 weeks pregnant. She is tired. Her flight home has been delayed, so she will not be back until very late. Back in Colorado, her husband Chris is home with the girls. At 9:28 that evening, Chris Watts calls Nichol Kessinger, and they talk for 111 minutes. 1 hour and 51 minutes. The call ends at 11:19 p.m. That is right around the time Shanann's delayed flight would have been landing. Now, think about that. What do two people talk about for almost 2 hours on the night before, as we now know, everything falls apart? What was the tone of that conversation? Was there any mention of what he was planning to do? Was there any discussion of the future, of what life might look like without his family in it? We don't know. Because when investigators asked Chris Watts about that call, he said he could not remember what was said. And when they asked Nichol Kessinger about it, she also said she could not remember the details. 1 hour and 51 minutes. And neither one of them could tell investigators a single specific thing that was said. Now, that alone is strange, but here is what makes it stranger. I went through the official discovery documents timeline, the one investigators put together to show the sequence of calls and texts, and that 111-minute call is not in it. It is not redacted. It is not marked as reviewed and set aside. It is simply not there. The call shows up in the raw phone data, so investigators had it. They had those records. But when they built the official timeline they presented, that conversation was left out. The single longest phone call between the two central people in this story on the night before the worst thing happened was not included in the timeline summary. I am not saying anyone made a decision to cover something up. I am saying that if this were your case, if someone you loved was taken from you and this was the investigation, you would want to know why that call was not in the timeline. You would want someone to explain that. Nobody has. And by the way, there is one more call that morning. Not the night before, the actual morning of August 13th. At 6:16 in the morning, Nichol Kessinger makes a 1-minute call, not to Chris, not to a friend, to a number connected to someone in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 6:16 a.m. Do you know what time that was in relation to everything else that was happening? That is approximately the time Chris Watts was arriving at a remote oil field called Survey 319. He was not alone when he drove there. That is all I will say about that for now, because that Milwaukee call, and who is on the other end of it, is the piece of this story that almost nobody has covered properly. And that is exactly where we are going next.
A woman is connected to a serious criminal case. She is interviewed by police. The case is closed quickly because the main suspect confesses. Everybody goes home. But in her phone records, right there in the documents that the public can read, there is a call at 6 in the morning to someone who has a key to her apartment. Someone who was in her life in a significant way. Someone who worked in the exact same industry she did. Someone who, according to people who have analyzed these records, may have been in town around the time all of this happened. And that person was never once interviewed by investigators. His name is Jim. Jim Gutosky, also known by the nickname Guto among people in the geology world.
Here is what the records and public information tell us about Jim. He's educated in geology, the same field as Nichol. He was connected to a consulting company called Sunburst Consulting. He was a mutual friend of someone named Charlotte Nelson. And Charlotte Nelson is someone who is named in the discovery documents as a person connected to Nichol. So he is not some random figure. He is directly in her circle. And here is what makes Jim stand out even more. He reportedly had a key to Nichol Kessinger's apartment. Not a spare key hidden under a mat. A personal key. The kind of access you give to someone you trust completely. Now, when the public started looking at these phone records after the documents were released, something else came up. Jim reportedly drove a red truck, and a red truck was reportedly seen in the area around the time all of this was happening. I want to be careful here. That connection has not been officially confirmed, but it has also never been officially looked at, because Jim was never brought in.
His LinkedIn profile, which listed him under Sunburst Consulting, was quietly removed after public interest in him started to grow. That does not prove anything on its own. People remove social media for all kinds of reasons. But when you add it to everything else, the key to the apartment, the early morning call, the shared professional world, the mutual friends in the documents, it adds up to someone who deserved a conversation with investigators. That conversation never happened. And here is what I keep coming back to. The discovery documents are 1,960 pages long. Almost 200 additional pages were either redacted or held back. Charlotte Nelson appears in those documents, but Jim Gutosky's name does not appear a single time. Not once. In a case this big, in a file this size, the man who had a key to the central witness's apartment does not appear once.
Do you find that strange? Because I do. Now, let's be fair here. There are people who look at Jim and say he was probably just a friend, maybe even just a couch surfer passing through. The Milwaukee connection could be a coincidence of phone billing. None of this is proof of anything involving Jim and what Chris Watts did. That is true. But proof of involvement and worth interviewing are two completely different standards. People with far less connection to a case than Jim had are typically brought in for questioning, and in this case, he was not. Why? I genuinely do not know, and that is the point. After 7 years, we still do not know, because nobody official has ever explained it.
The worst part of this whole mess. We won't
dwell on it. We don't have to dwell on it.
No.
Let me ask you.
But, no, I don't have an explanation. That's the only thing I can possibly plausibly think of is maybe they saw it, but other than that, I don't know what the fuck.
Okay. Who's Charlotte?
Are you asking me who's Charlotte?
Mm-hmm.
Like one of my friends?
Mm-hmm.
She's like a really good friend of mine. Why?
Did you have some conversations with her regarding another boyfriend?
No.
That you might have met on eHarmony? Or did she meet somebody on eHarmony?
No, she's engaged.
Okay.
She's engaged.
So there's some text messages that we got off your phone, obviously. And the only reason I'm asking this is because if he found out maybe you had another boyfriend, you understand my line of questioning, that looked like maybe you had another boyfriend. And I don't know if that's this Jim guy, that maybe you guys were, no, I'm not saying that he's your boyfriend, that when we were interpreting the text messages, that it seemed like he might, this man came to my house, he has a key to my house, that you're saying right now. When I look at that from my perspective, Jim may be another boyfriend for you.
Oh, no. Charlotte is like my oldest friend.
So did you have a conversation with Charlotte about Jim?
I mean, sometimes we talk about him. We're all friends.
Did you guys ever have a conversation about eHarmony? That's the
I mean,
kind of
possibly. I
online-
was on there for a while.
Okay.
But I didn't actually ever go out on any dates with guys from eHarmony. Not
Okay.
one. I talked to a couple guys on there, but I was like, no, I didn't go on any dates.
So the only reason would be another potential reason for him to be upset.
No, he knew about Jim. He's always known that Jim is one of my good friends,
Okay.
and I lay it out for people at the beginning. I have friends that are male, I have friends that are female. These are my friends. That's what it is.
Okay.
He never, to me, seemed jealous of Jim by any means. So no, I'm curious what text you're talking about with Charlotte.
I
talked to that girl so
I have
much.
153 pages of text messages, so I can't. If I could pull it up, I would, but I don't know where it is.
I thought you guys just got my text.
We got when we ask for everything. For 7 days they give us everything.
Oh, so why did you need to just do that if you just had them?
Because I don't know that they're completely accurate. Again, what they send me is I don't have any way to verify that they're accurate.
Gotcha.
And if you delete a text message, sometimes those are not retained by carriers. They're still on your handset. There's a way to recover them from your phone. But they may not be held. There are certain carriers that don't even keep text messages. And I won't tell you who those people are, but they don't keep them. We can't even get our hands on them because they don't have a database. They don't pay the money. They're stored on your stuff and your stuff only. So that's why we ask for it. And some of those things disappear in 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, unless we ask them to keep them. And sometimes we don't know in time. So that's why we do it too. Okay? So just, it was a question because it also would provide potentially a motive for what Chris did if he found out that you had another boyfriend.
Why would he kill his family?
Well, he
because I
wigs
have a
out that he
boyfriend?
finds out that you have a boyfriend and just loses it altogether. Do you understand? Because he's already losing his wife, and now his new girlfriend has another boyfriend, and he can't. There's multiple reasons why. It was a concern. That
His cheese slid off his cracker. So sad. I don't know. He's not even the same. I look at those mug shots and they're scary. They scare me.
Yeah, that's what you
Tim?
said about that video too. It didn't. I had noticed I would have been a wreck. Oof.
I don't know. I mean, I volunteered with some guys for when I did the armed military stuff that had PTSD, and they were telling me when they went through trauma that they kind of locked up. So I didn't even think it was the fact that he was calm that freaked me out.
Oh,
it was
when you were helping
his
those guys
eyes.
out from the.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It was his, that part didn't, because I was I've seen, there's these guys that have been in battle that I've worked with that are yeah, I've experienced this is how I handle my trauma, and they're very just kind of zombies. But, so I didn't hold that against him, it was just his eyes, and just the light is gone from his eyes.
So let me just finish just with a couple quick questions here, but besides the obvious, and what he's done, what's the worst thing about this guy? Did you ever have just some sense? You seem to be pretty together with who you date, the people you hang around with. You seem to know a lot about people. Was there some impression he gave you that
The
was
whole
negative?
time? The whole time we were together?
Yeah. Anything negative that sticks out?
I didn't think anything negative. I mean, I have preferences. I thought he was I don't want to use the word clingy because it's fucked up. He was he was a lot more into me than I was into him. And it didn't make...
Time?
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed his company, though. I mean, enough so that I kept everything going despite the situation. And, I mean, like, it didn't scare me or anything. It's just like, I don't move that fast.
Okay.
So I think things
What were
were
his
moving.
long-term plans with you? What did he discuss with you?
Like, I mean, we'd like bullshit about it every once in a while and be like, oh yeah, like, I asked him, I was like, if you didn't have that big house, because he didn't want to live in it, and he had made it very clear he didn't pick that out, he didn't, none of that. I was like, well, if you could have a house that you wanted, what would your house look like? And he would tell me, he's like, I want a little ranch home, like, it doesn't need all these floors, just a few bedrooms, enough space for my kids, maybe some property so they can, like, run around.